Week 5 of the fantasy football season. And here's a few tight ends I would bench this week. The first guy, Irv Smith Jr. of the Minnesota Vikings. Irv Smith Jr., it's been an up and down type of career for him. He'll have one big game and then disappear for a couple weeks here and not do much. And that's exactly been the case. Week 2 with Philly, he had 5 catches, 36 yards, and a touchdown. Week 3 versus Detroit, 2 catches, 32 yards. And then last week versus New Orleans in London, only 3 catches, 23 yards. So right now, he's just a guy you can't count on, I believe, here. And the Vikings, they got so many weapons on that offense. He's really the third or fourth option at best, is Irv Smith Jr. So right now, I was big on him coming into the season as a sleeper option. But it obviously hasn't panned out with only one good fantasy game. And I know he's got a decent matchup versus the Bears. But he's a tight end I would shy away from and bench this week. The next guy is Dalton Schultz of the Dallas Cowboys. So Dalton Schultz here, I think he might have been a one-year wonder with the Cowboys. And obviously Dak Prescott hits his guys more than a Cooper Rush. But Cooper Rush, he's playing great football, and I think this Cowboy team, for now, should keep him in there until they struggle, even if Dak's ready to go by week 6, week 7. So the last couple games here for Schultz, week 2 versus Cincinnati, 2 catches, 18 yards. He got hurt and fumble loss. And then week 4 versus Washington, he came back from injury after missing week 3. In a decent matchup, and he only had 3 targets with no catches. So right here, week 5 at the Rams, I'm not going to trust him. They give up the least amount of fantasy points to running back, to tight ends on the season here. And I don't really trust many guys in this ball game. The only guys I really would want to start is obviously a CeeDee Lamb in this ball game. Maybe the Dallas defense in deeper leagues in the Rams defense. And also, obviously, Cooper Kupp. Besides that, and Tyler Higbee. Besides that, there's no one really in this ball game I really have appeal about or think would have a decent ball game. The running backs, it's going to be tough for them with good D-lines on both sides. And now when Robinson doesn't do nothing, and Michael Gallup still working his way back from injury. But anyway, Dalton Schultz, there's no way I think he has a decent game in this one. There's a chance he could, but how could you trust him after what you've seen so far in the early going? And the third and final tight end I looked to bench this week's Logan Thomas of the Washington Commanders. So Logan Thomas, after coming off injury, looked good the first few weeks of the season. But the last couple weeks here, this offense came down to earth quickly. Carson Wentz, the first 2 weeks of the season, had the most points for quarterbacks in fantasy leagues. And now the last 2 weeks, he's done nothing. Week 3 for Thomas, 2 catches, 5 yards versus Philly. And week 4, Dallas, 5 catches, 19 yards. So right here, the only good thing and positive I would say about Thomas, he's getting the targets, he's looking healthy. But this Washington Commander offensive line is definitely a big problem right now. Wentz doesn't have a lot of time, and he's just putting that ball up for grabs just to get it away as well and not making that much of accurate throws. So right here, Logan Thomas, this week he's a tough tight end to trust. I know it's a decent matchup versus Tennessee. That gives up the 6th most fantasy points to tight ends. But if I got better options, I would shy away from Robert Tonyan. I would play over him. Will Disley, who's at least scoring a touchdown, even though out of a game it seems like that's not going to last, but I'd rather play him over him here, and a Pat Freiermuth. So right now, I would bench Thomas. That's a few tight ends I look to bench here for week 5 of the fantasy football season.